Guess who's back? We're back. Ask the Advocate. Another round of, Ask the Advocate. So you can get all your questions answered in real time from a real advocate who's never bitten anybody. Well, not at an IEP meeting. After an IEP meeting, I'm not able to disclose what happens. So invite your friends. We're going to do an hour of Ask the Advocate. Share, share, share. Yes, we love you right back. Yes, that's funny. You guys crack me up. Yes, we're going to ask the Advocate. We're going to start out with questions. We're start out some of the goofiness from this week. If I have one more person tell me that I have to prove that you have to take data on an IEP, it doesn't even rise to the level of response. The fact that people say to me, can you prove that we have to take data on an IEP, makes me say, ma'am, sir, I feel like you ought to work at the Aldi's. I don't think you should be in the school building. Everything in education, much less special education, is about data. So the fact that you're asking me to prove it means that you have been bonked on the head from, I don't know who. Maybe something from wearing those masks too long. So we love you. We're going to be doing Ask. You want some breaking news? Do you guys want some breaking news? Okay. So you guys were so much fun last time. We're going to do Ask the Advocate live. Wait for it. Every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I know. Because by Tuesday, you've already thought about biting somebody at the IEP meeting, whether it's the advocate, the parent, the principal. Has anybody ever just reached over and said, Mr. Principal, sir, we're in a meeting. Have you ever said that? Yeah, I've had the craziest stuff said at meetings. Always tell my parents to not speak when we get in the meeting because they have representation me. And this lady one time jumped up and she goes, liars, all of you are liars. I was like, I'm not really, I don't think that's what we prepped. I think we prepped something different. So we're going to start asking questions. We have people from the Academy here. So we have been saving up the questions. If you guys don't know about the Academy, you should join. All the cool people and the cool kids are in the Academy so that we train everyone that sits at the 504 IEP table. If we haven't met them, Mayer Cunningham, special education boss, training and hopefully changing outcomes for kiddos with disabilities. So what is the first question? Oh, how long should it take to get the RDCS back? It shouldn't take any time at all. So they have them. The longest it would take would be for our little friends to walk down, to their classroom, to their minivan, to their cellular phone and just get them for you. So at the latest, it would take me 2 weeks. So I want to ask for the raw data collection sheets because either you have raw data collection sheets or you didn't track the IEP goals. You have to track them to make sure that they're effective. Okay? Tell me the questions, ma'am.
Well, Robert is a principal, and he would like to visit with you about becoming an advocate.
Robert, visit with me. Just shoot me an email at admin, how do you spell that? Admin. What if it was like ADDMEN? Sorry, let's not do that. Sorry. Nobody really appreciates my sense of humor. Admin at Special Education Academy, and we would like all of you to become even better IEP team members because you are amazing. Yes, wouldn't that be funny, Robert? Admin, which is what I've done over the years with husbands, but I'm on number 2. I'm on my number 2 husband. He's my favorite one so far.
Blue Eyes wants to know, is there a reason the school would push back on the number of SLDs?
Yes. There's a reason the school would push back on the number of SLDs. The number of anything means the number of services, right? So eligibility is open the door for services. I had a little girl the other day who's 7. That reminds me, I'm meeting with her mother at 9:30 in the morning. I forgot about that. And she has 6 SLDs. 6. And so all of those require specific services and interventions. Obviously, how you work on a math computation deficit is different than how you work on written expression.
Jackie wants you to know that she has a son who has a 504. He's autistic, and he needs executive functioning support. He makes good grades. Are there any tests that may show his deficits?
So what you need, a 504 is worthless. It's completely 100,000 million% worthless. If a student has a disability and they are in need of special education, you're only going to get that through an IEP. So I'd ask for a full evaluation to include all 7 Gs, a full psychological that includes 2 rating scales from 2 different teachers. Each parent, depending on the age, do a full student interview, ask for counseling as a related service. But absolutely, executive functioning is something that we can teach strategies to self-manage that.
Okay, Shanny Shan said that her school district keeps getting mad because somebody keeps telling the parents to request special education evaluation. She said, "It's me."
It's me. I'm the problem. So here's the deal. If they're mad, my mama said, she said, you got the same pants to get glad in, you got mad in. I don't care if you're mad, not mad. You'd be like me going, listen, the doctor said my kid needs insulin 5 days a week. The school said, let's do Thursdays. It's a no for me. So if you're mad, sad, happy, I could care less. The student is allowed to have special education and related services. So you stick the landing and keep talking till you get the services and the testing.
I like it. Becky with the baby girls asked, what do you do if your SPED pre-K daughter teachers only meet with her for 30 minutes a week?
So SPED pre-K daughter teachers, are they in the Pegasus program? Is it general ed kiddos? Are you in ECSC, early childhood special education? That's totally different.
Yeah, we'll give her a chance to
Okay.
respond. I think this is Scott, but maybe not. My daughter has INRS for 4 years. I want to ask for an IEP in middle school, not just her 504 for anxiety.
So we don't ask. We have to stop asking. It's like we're not asking. We're requiring the school to meet their obligations. So does the student have an identified disability? Yes. So the federal law, Child Find, says that we identify, locate, and evaluate students with suspected disability. So you have a child with an identified disability. You want to ask for evaluation in all 8 areas. Here are the 8 areas. Speech and language evaluation to include pragmatic, medical, physical, sociological, formal IQ, to include all 7 Gs, formal achievement, adaptive behavior, full psychological, and related services that are applicable to the student.
Awesome. Kels wants to know, does a school need to test for DDA services?
I don't know what DDA services are. Developmentally delayed might be what you're talking about. That's only in 9 states now. So,
okay. I'm not going to attempt to say that name, but this person's asking, what happens if they are refusing to evaluate for a BIP? IEP is already in place.
Okay. So you don't evaluate. So you do an FBA, a functional behavior assessment. So if the behavior cannot be managed within the school settings, then it rises to the level of a formal functional behavior assessment. You can always ask for a behavioral assist from the district, to have a behavior specialist come from the district. But again, whatever they're denying you, this is what we say. Should you choose to deny me, please provide that denial in writing in a prior written notice by close of business. Those phrases really make people go, oh, that's not what we meant. So if you're going to deny me that, please provide a prior written notice by close of business.
City Lights asks, are students with ASD entitled to be in the classroom taught by a teacher instead of a CI?
Entitled to be in the classroom, whether they have a disability or not. If that's the appropriate setting, right? We have kiddos that are above grade level and they need special education. The general ed classroom is too much for them. So if the general ed classroom is where we can optimize the IEP or the 504 or general ed, then absolutely that's the right setting.
And Leah wants to know, how can I avoid further retaliation by the school? It started after I brought in a district rep.
So if you're having retaliation, I would certainly file with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights. I probably have, probably 65 investigations open with them right now. And several of them are on race and retaliation. You have to be able to prove that. It can't just be a feeling. And so there's a series of events that happen, but that's something that's you certainly can exercise.
Okay, one person said, my daughter is receiving failing grades in class. She's in 4th grade, but she has an IEP. Is that okay?
No, it's never okay for any kid to fail. If you have an IEP, it's completely 100,000% unacceptable to fail. It means it's OE, it's operator error. If the student is unsuccessful in special education, it has everything to do with the educators providing them an educational product.
What happens if they're refusing to... Oh, I already asked that one. Sorry. Will it affect my son if he is found eligible for EBD when he goes to college or gets a job?
So we get this a lot. So you guys are all adults. Have you ever met anybody that had special ed in high school and you knew that as a coworker? No. If it sounds like propaganda at the school district, it is. It's a lie. So you go to college because you met the college criteria. You get a job because you met the criteria. Thank goodness they didn't ask me what I did during the 80s and it's not on videotape, or if I was ever mean to my mom, or if I ever ran away from home. These are not things that people ask. Your special education record is not even a thing. It's not like you've been arrested in juvenile. So if you meet the qualifications for going into college, then you go into college.
Okay, Becky with the baby girls. She said that she has a ISP because she is 2 in the special education pre-K. She turned 3 today. Well, happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Right, so special education doesn't start until between the ages of 3 and 22. So when you're 3, you can go to a 3 to, it depends on how many hours a day, but that's where special education starts. Before that, it's ECI, Early Childhood Intervention.
Okay. Someone said their county doesn't have a TVI, and my son is on week 11 of no services. I'm lost to what to do.
No, you're not lost. So you get representation, and you file for failure to implement the IEP and failure to implement the accommodation. So that means your ECC is not being implemented, your VI supplement's not being implemented, probably your assistive technology isn't being implemented. So we do that for families all the time. So if you want more information about me helping you file that, you would just reach out to admin@specialeducationacademy.com.
A 7th grader with an IEP and is failing math because his teacher that quote unquote pushes in only comes twice a week.
Is twice a week on your schedule. So again, if the student is failing, the special ed product is the failure. The student isn't the failure. The special education product is failure. So I would call an IEP meeting immediately to get that remedy.
Yes. She says, my daughter has a 504 and has been denied an IEP twice. She has multiple mental health diagnoses.
So you got to get everything in writing. You have to stop talking to people. Everything is in writing. This is my formal request for my child to have special education testing. Areas of suspected disability are learning, attention, communicative, functional behavior. I look forward to your written response in 15 days. Only do things in writing and email the entire school district.
What is the best way to get a meeting with you to discuss multiple kids on an IEP?
Admin@specialeducationacademy.com.
My daughter has a diagnosis of dyslexia. Does the school have to have the diagnosis from the doctor?
It depends on what goofy state you live in. If you live in the goofy state of Indiana, let's pray now. Dear Lord, bless Indiana and Article 7. Hallelujah. So dyslexia is medical in nature. You don't need a diagnosis. It's a very easy cognitive test to formal achievement and formal IQ to see if there's a deficit in any reading area, whether it's dyslexia, basic reading, reading fluency, and reading comprehension. Let me just say that not every child who struggles in reading has dyslexia. So you want to make sure that you're testing for all 4 of those possibilities. But depending on what goofy state you're in, they might make you, jump through hoops. Reach out to your DOE to find out specificity about that.
Awesome. A self-contained class, nonverbal, school isn't giving speech therapy. What can I do?
Well, I'm certain that that's a violation of his IEP. If you're nonverbal, then you probably need eligibility for speech impairment. So again, anytime you guys are not getting services, we track them. Listen to me very carefully. We track the number of services that we miss, and we have them replaced. Replacing the minutes you miss is not compensation. It's not compensatory time. Compensatory time makes up for the time that you lost. So the federal government or a district hearing officer or state hearing officer would say compensatory time is for the student to return them back to where they would have been had the IDEA violation not occurred.
Matt asked, is there a limited number of IEPs or 504s a teacher can have in a single class?
Unfortunately, no.
AJ's mom asked, when a 5th grader reads at a 3rd grade level, what are the service options during school hours?
So it depends. You could have a 5th grader reading at the 3rd grade level that needs respond to intervention or MTSS. Not every child that's behind necessarily needs special education, depending on the why, right? But if he's been that far behind, if he's been 2 years behind for a long time, then I'm certainly going to ask for a full evaluation. Yeah.
Can you ask Bree to comment her questions again? They keep getting separated, so I can't get the whole question.
Yes, Bree, ask us again.
Nita says, my son is in the 5th grade, got a letter saying his second next meeting is 17th of November. We just saw the teachers. I guess they're asking for another IEP meeting.
Right. So if you've been asked for an IEP meeting, I'm not really sure what the question is. They have to give you formal notice, right? 5 days notice, and you don't have to necessarily take that day. You meet at a mutually agreed upon time. Every meeting has a reason. So you want to see, is it MDR? Is it a D&Q? Is it a dismissal? Is it a review, a brief? There's all kinds of IEP meetings you're having. So I would ask which kind of meeting you're being invited to.
Sorry, I'm responding back to Bree. Student or parent truancy issues affecting the IEP implementation still SPED teacher's fault?
Nope. If the student's out in the building, I can't deliver FAPE. And so this is a hard conversation that I have with a lot of my families that want outside therapies. And I get it, right? But if you're going to take your kid half of the week to ABA, then you've removed the responsibility of the school district to deliver a free, appropriate public education. That's just the truth. So if you're my client, I'm clear. People use other words to describe me. But you're going to need to choose, right? Public school is amazing when we get it right, right? It's not always the right setting for your kiddo. If you want ABA and you are my client, I would say then go ABA. But if you want the school to provide them a free, appropriate public education, you have got to make your student available to the school.
Okay. Rose asked, how can a student test too low for SPED services in Texas? How do you fight that as a teacher?
There's no such thing as too low for SPED services in Texas. So there's this thing called the federal law. It's called child find. And the very last thing in child find says child find 300.11D. You guys should all write this down. 300.111D. 3 ones. The D stands for dub. It says that even a student doesn't have to be listed by a disability as long as we agree as a committee that the student is in need of specially designed instruction and related services.
Michelle would like to know, she filed an OCR. Should she tell the school district at her meeting on Monday?
No, you should never tell the school district about filing with the OCR because the OCR is like a pregnancy. It takes a long time. You file with the OCR. If they choose to open it, they will call you for an interview. After that interview, they have 180 days to complete their process. So the date you'll get a letter saying we've opened the investigation, they will get a letter saying that they've opened the investigation. Or you'll get a letter dismissing your complaint, which means the school never knew. So no, we don't say anything. No. Silly.
Someone says, does it matter what order the school lists the child's primary disability?
Yeah. Does it matter? It matters. Yeah. So everything in the IEP has to be commensurate, right? If autism is first and then speech, we should have the impact of those disabilities commensurate throughout the document, right? So, yes, it absolutely matters.
I didn't even get to finish.
I feel like you were in one of my trainings and you asked that question. That was good. That was a good question. It matters.
How is it the educator or the teacher's fault if a student on an IEP is failing?
Because you need to differentiate the delivery of the product. You need to reduce the product. You need to reduce the volume, the depth and breadth. You need to change the setting. You need to change something so that student can be successful. You know that he has a disability. If he's failing, what you're giving him is too hard for him to accomplish.
15-year-old son restrained and finding out 2 weeks later it was more aggressive than they reported to us. Do you have any advice?
When you're talking about restraints, I definitely have, make sure that we're looking at, if it's a restraint related to an IEP, then that's one conversation. If it's a legal issue and it's an administrative restraint based on another discipline, I would refer you to an attorney. I just saw somebody ask, what state are you in and can you do due process? So I represent families all the way through due process in my state. This is one of a handful of states I'm allowed to interpret state and federal special education law without being a litigator, and I do that. I'm in the great state of, last place, Texas. Mm-hmm.
ADHD enough to get an IEP. She is struggling in reading.
Okay, struggling in reading, after, what is the impact, right? So the law says, there's a little hearing that came down March 22nd, 2017, Andrew F., and it says that in light of their unique circumstances, so based on your unique circumstances, can the general ed teacher implement an educational product successfully? And the answer is either yes or no. Somebody said, can you ask the school to find time during the school day?
There is a lot. There's a list. There are
I'm sorry.
So the one that I'm reading.
I'm sorry.
Can the art committee change a child's grade on his report card to pass them along?
Criminal activity happens all the time, but that has grades have nothing to do with special education.
VA has 65 days to complete the eval, but 60 is the federal. Which do you go by?
So somebody asked, our email is admin@specialeducationacademy.com. So you go by whatever your state goes by. If it's 60, 65, 713, that's what you go by.
7th grade ADHD daughters being on 3rd grade level with accommodation. RTI has not closed the gap.
Right. So let me just help you. Nothing closes the gap. Whoever told teachers or whoever to say words that we close the gap, it's not true. So if your child has a disability, you're not going to close the gap. Actually, we're trying to make sure the gap doesn't get bigger, but we're teaching a child strategies to self-manage their disability, not to close the gap.
Can a school district limit a student after the age of 18 if they were in special education since kindergarten?
Can they eliminate them?
Limit. I guess maybe in their 18 to 22 program.
I don't know what the question. Can they limit them? I don't know what limit means.
Can a parent request their child get a SPED evaluation without weeks of data to support it?
Yeah. It says we evaluate children with suspected disabilities. That's it. Didn't say anything about data or weeks or something else. There's a letter January 22nd, 2011. January 21st. I like to be specific. 2011 from OSEP, the Office of Special Education Programs. It says, hey, about that RTI, it doesn't replace an evaluation.
How do I know if I need an advocate? Do I wait until there's a problem?
You need an advocate. You need that. Let me tell you why. You don't necessarily need me. You need somebody to go alongside with you. You're in a legal setting. You absolutely are. And unfortunately, special ed is a learn as you go, and you may not learn what you need to know during the process while you're learning. So take somebody. Oh, you're awesome too.
If I found out...
I've got to answer this one question. So you're saying the child will never catch up. I'm sorry, I just have to answer this question. I'm saying that I've worn glasses for 20 years. My prescription is not less than it used to be. But this prescription helps me see, right? So our job in special ed is to teach a child strategies, not to catch them up. I'm not going to do it again, I promise. I'm in trouble by the...
You are.
Yeah.
Tell Bree I'm sorry, but I'm still only getting the second half of her question, which is to get her in the building, and they also refuse to put it in writing. I don't know the first half.
Okay.
What can I do for my son who has ADHD and autism, and the school told his parents, nope, they can't help?
Okay. So I would get the no, we can't help in writing. I would get everything in writing, because if I'm going to move forward with a district grievance, a state complaint, mediation, a federal complaint, I have to have it in writing. Oh, I love you to death too. I didn't jump ahead. See how I didn't jump ahead?
What if your child doesn't qualify due to a lower IQ?
So, a lot of you don't qualify because you don't do a full evaluation. So, there are kiddos that are low cognitively. It doesn't mean we can't help them. 300.111D says that even if a child's not listed by a disability, we still can provide them special education and related services. It's in the federal code. It's been there for 46 years. You have to know the federal code, which is what we teach every Tuesday night in the academy. You should join it. There's hundreds of hours of past trainings and workbooks on there for you to be the special education boss when you sit at your next meeting.
All right. In the Florida, a parent requested an eval. Is the school required to complete IQ testing? They are refusing.
Yes. So whether you're in Florida, whether you're in Seattle, whether you're in New Hampshire, you have to do, the F stands for full, a full individualized evaluation. If you're going to deny me a component of that requirement, I want that in writing. You can join the academy by going to specialeducationacademy.com, or there's a thing of a deal that you swipe in the up. It's not like above the bookshelf.
It's a link tree.
It's a tree of a link, and there's, yeah.
Can the school district dismiss from services without consent with evaluation?
No. Guess what? This is like a marriage. You get in the same way you get out. You test it in and you test it out. If we're all sitting and they say, oh, Bob is the world's greatest orator now, he doesn't need speech, super duper, let's DNQ him via an evaluation.
In your state, the great state of Texas, are advocates allowed to represent parents in a due process?
They are, if the hearing officers grant it. So last year in 2021, I filed 29 due processes. But the hearing officer has to grant that, because the attorney is going to go, oh no, we don't want Cindy Smith to be representing families. So if you are granted and you have enough history and experience, yes. So the federal law is 300.111D. 300.111D. It's child fine. It's the reason we do special education. Thank you.
You're the best.
I'm one of my favorite people, just in case you were wondering.
If I found my daughter's annual IEP is incorrect completely, should I address it straight to the superintendent?
Oh, no. Never call the superintendent. That is a waste of time. If you do want to traumatize somebody, you could call the superintendent's secretary. The superintendent doesn't do anything, love. The superintendent's a politician that stands there and takes photos, right? If you want to have your IEP looked at, I would recommend to reach out to an advocate and have a records review. Because probably every single page is not wrong. Might be close. And then you can have the language to go in and talk about the areas of need.
Because why does my son's school tell me he can't have an IEP or a 504 because he has to wait until he's in the second grade?
Because they're liars. They are liars. Yeah.
How is an autistic student high to qualify for special services?
So I have a kiddo that was a salutatorian. She was actually gifted. We're looking for an educational need. I think we all get hung up on cognition. Cognition is only 2 of those pieces of those 8 tests that we described. We just finished a whole series on getting your child tested and what are the areas you ask for. When you join the academy, it's actually a paid product, is you get how to get your child tested for free in the academy. But 99% of people that need special ed never get it because parents don't know how to ask. Here's what happens when you guys ask for special education. It's sort of like if we all went out to eat and we sit down and we go into a Mexican food restaurant, the waiter comes over and he says, what would you like to eat? And all of us say, I would like Mexican food. And then you wonder why you didn't get lunch. You don't ask with the right specificity.
Perfect. Tidy home cleaning, which she can come over anytime. Asks, can my autistic 5-year-old child have an aide at school with him just assigned to him?
Oh, you guys, I know y'all don't like this, but I'm not a fan of aides. I'm not a fan of paras. I love paras and I love aides. I'm not a fan of a one-on-one. I'm a fan of a one-on-one if it's meaningful and there's a benefit. Okay? So you can't put somebody suction cup to a child and then be able to measure that, right? There are kiddos that need one-on-one for safety, that sort of thing. But if you need a high level of support, then let's look at a class that does that with low numbers. Or let's look at one-on-one support at certain times. But he does not need somebody suction cup to him 24 hours a day. If he does, probably you're in the wrong setting.
Medic Mel said her 10th grade son never passed SOL. IEP for ADHD. I want him to get a diploma. Can they force alternative?
There's no forcing. Everybody gets a diploma. Again, when you're getting that sort of shenanigans, I would reach out to your DOE, your Department of Education for your state, and ask for clarification.
Okay, so Bree, I got it. She's basically asking, is the school obligated to help assist me in getting her inside the building? So I guess all of the together.
No. Yeah. No. Nobody's going to, the constable's not going to come physically make a child come to school. That does not happen. Mm-mm.
Oh, this one's good. Any training that you know of or have on time management for self-contained teachers? I think that like travel time. Like think about like how to teach a kid how to manage their time.
No, they ask for the teachers, not the student.
Oh, you're right.
I don't. But that's something that your district could help you with. Do you mean that you don't have enough time to serve the kiddos? You don't have enough time for curriculum prep? I'm not really sure what that means.
Maybe she'll comment. How do we find out? How do we go about finding an advocate to attend an IEP with my husband and myself?
So we have a team of advocates that we have trained that are affiliates that have been hand trained by myself for over 8 months. That's a very rigorous process that they've gone through, very in-depth training. And you can just email us at admin@specialeducationacademy.com. You can reach out to your state and ask for a list of advocates in your state. You can reach out to Disability Rights. They take a limited number of students based on very specific criteria. You can reach out to COPA, Coalition of Parent Advocates and Attorneys.
I caught up to where you were answering questions earlier. Sorry.
Somebody asked me about emotional behavioral curriculum. Michelle Garcia Winter is the best. I'm getting a dirty look from the host.
Does Alabama have sped services for homeschool? She's not the only one. There's been about 5 or 6 people asking if there's services for their homeschool child.
Sure. So homeschool is different than homebound. If your child is enrolled in the school district and you go to school, you can have homebound services. If you have chosen to remove your child from the school district, which is certainly your choice, and homeschool them, they have no legal obligation to service your child. School districts are short on funds. You may possibly get speech. I don't know that it's that big of a deal. But they don't have an obligation. It is a choice to provide you services. Some school districts are very generous, and some school districts are not.
Someone asked if you can tell them what the 7 G's are.
Gangster. The 7 G's are short-term memory, long-term memory, auditory processing, visual processing, processing speed. It has been a long day. They're good, though. We just did a training on it. We just finished it in the academy. And you're going to enjoy them when you jump on.
That's right.
But whoever you're getting an evaluation from, when you say the 7 G's, they know what you're talking about.
Okay, so this is the third one.
I'm sorry.
Also asked the question about private school. How can I get an advocate in private school? So maybe talk a little bit about that.
So there's no requirements for private schools to provide FAPE, a free appropriate public education. So while I do have a few clients that are in private schools, there's no obligation for the private school to provide an IEP because they don't receive federal funds. So they're not bound by IDEA. A private school might receive federal funds for something else, but not for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act.
Advice on asking for a draft or proposed changes prior to the IEP meeting.
Sure. So we look forward to coming to your amazing meeting Thursday. Please provide us a full draft copy of the complete IEP document, knowing that it's just a draft and all decisions are made in the meeting. Without that full draft copy of the IEP document prior, so myself and my client can be prepared to fully participate, it's unlikely we'll be able to make informed decisions, and we'll have to reschedule. Muffin. You just always end it with muffin. Yeah.
Lisa asks, how do you get an advocate when the child is in foster care?
So if a child's in foster care has CASA. So those are advocates through the courts for foster care. Now, if you're the foster parent, I certainly have clients that I've advocated for, but those come with very specific parameters out of your county and your state. What does muffin mean? It's just a cute little thing that I call people. Muffin, buttercup.
Someone asked how they joined the academy.
Just come on down. Da-da-da, da-da-da. I'm always wound up. SpecialEducationAcademy.com. Just join. We can be spending hours together tonight.
I just want to thank MKD Custom for helping me find Bree's question.
Thank you, MKD Customs.
How many reads can be in the FIE?
So a read
between the FIE.
So that's a really good question. I feel like it's a trick question, but I live for a question. So you have the FIIE, right? The full initial individualized evaluation. And then depending on what school district you're in or county or city and who wants to argue, you can have evaluations every year if needed, if they haven't been done and there's a new need. But I'm not about testing kiddos. I'm not about IEs. I'm about getting in there, getting a robust evaluation done. If we've done it right, and there's not a new need that arises, it should last you the 3 years. But you could ask for new evaluations annually.
This one said the school denied me a full evaluation. Then they asked me to get one done, and I did. And then they used it.
So I would ask for like a Ferrari and a thank you note.
How long does it take the school to complete an FBA?
Yes, takes that long till they're done. It depends, right? Depending on the acuity of the kiddo. I've had FBAs where a kiddo was just adopted, a kiddo just came from overseas, a kiddo just came from another state, and I've asked for an FBA, but I want you to give him a minute so that he can calibrate, and then we'll start the FBA. I want to give those professionals the time that they use to do it with fidelity.
Oh, to finish up the evaluation one, they used it against me and said they cannot provide my child with one until next year after the first one was completed.
I want 2 Ferraris and a puppy.
In Arizona, can a child have more than 2 eligibilities?
If you're on the planet in the United States, you can have every eligibility that you have. So there are no limits on eligibilities unless you've been wamboozled into that or you live in another country called Louisiana. Let's just say a prayer for Louisiana. Father, help them. Amen. Hallelujah. There we go. Yeah.
Amber said, how do we determine if behaviors are ADHD or anxiety driven or just bad behaviors?
So behaviors are not bad behaviors or good behaviors. Behaviors are a fruit. They're not a root. Behaviors are always because of some sort of need or input. So behavior is the outcome. We have to determine how that outcome came to be. And so a good psychologist, an LPC, a licensed professional counselor, an SSP, a licensed specialist in school-based, a licensed specialist in school psychology, district professional behaviors specialist should be able to help you with that.
What if there's an evaluation, but the parent doesn't agree with the results?
So that means you're a human. I don't always agree with the results. So I would say I disagree. This is what I would say, depending on you. I disagree with this section. I disagree with the evaluation, its contents, its summary, and its conclusion. We'll be requesting an IEE, an independent education evaluation at the expense of the district.
Love it. This one is from a teacher. She said, how should the teacher handle it when parents that don't come to the meeting or never give their input for the IEP?
Parents that never come to the meeting. So I just want to talk about parents that never come to the meeting. Think about how realistic it is to come to an IEP meeting. We don't make it nice. We don't make it enjoyable. We lie to parents and tell them they have to come at 11:03 when Miss Cindy has her scheduled appointment time. That's a lie. And people at their other jobs, just like you, only have so many days off. I think we have to make it a more enjoyable thing to come to. IEP meetings are a beating. You come into an IEP meeting, and I do professional development for school districts and states all the time. You should all jump to your feet and offer the parents the best seats and some snacks. We don't make it enjoyable to bring in parents to a school IEP meeting, which is why since March 13th, 2020, I've been sitting here with 52,000 outfits and different backdrops on an Ethernet cord and will never be going into a school district again because I want to be able to have a business meeting with my client and the other school-based members.
I'm helping a friend. She needs advice. Her homebound child was reported to DSS for neglect for attendance. Do you have any advice?
You know what? Pray for people that are awful. That's my advice. Forgive everything, forgive always, forgive quickly. That's my advice. People are banana heads. I've had CPS called on me twice. I don't think if you're a parent, you haven't had CPS called on you. God bless people and their trigger happiness.
Okay, one person, she asked the question again about if she should tell them that she filed an OCR complaint. The answer is no.
No. Why would you tell them that? Because your case may not be opened. And also telling somebody that you're filing or you're going to file is like threatening. Little kids threaten. We're not little kids. We're adults. If we do something, we deliver on it. And it's quite hard to get an OCR complaint open, even if you have the interview. So that's something that we teach and train on privately. It's not the federal government's the federal government. And when you get the OCR investigator on the phone, you're talking to a federal attorney and they're not joking around and they're not playing.
Hey, you have a bunch of people telling you that they love you.
I love you.
How often can you request an IEP evaluation through the school?
Annually.
Crystal wants to know, how does she become an advocate? She's been a SPED para for 4 years.
Come on down. You're the next contestant. So we have a 2-day training that you'll want to attend. We have it digital on demand, which means you can sit there in your jammies and take it. And you will be ready to be an advocate at the end of it. We have in-person trainings. Our last one and our next one is in Houston. It is the first Saturday and Sunday, the 3rd and the 4th, I'm guessing is, the 3rd and 4th of December. We don't have them that often in person. But over 2/3 of the people that come to our meetings are from school-based members. Hi, Sarah and Mandy. We love you too.
Outspoken Pearl, I just love her name and her little emoji. Why are your services so affordable, but other advocates charge enough to cover 2 mortgage payments?
You know what? I think some advocates are banana heads. I've been doing this for 100 years. I know what I'm doing respectfully. Let's just look at them together. This is just a wall of some of my trainings. Look at that. And that's also on my desk. These are homemade snacks. These are just some of the trainings that I take. Annually, I spend over $10,000 a year personally on training myself in legal training. I don't bill people for junk. If you call me or text me, unless you're a lunatic and you want to scam me and wear me, which I'm not adverse to that either. I don't bill people $7,000 for something that this is what I do. I do 500 IP meetings a year. This is my wheelhouse. So I think that a lot of attorneys, advocates are billing you because they're doing research on what you need. I don't do that. So, yeah. So I pay, you're paying for my time. So that's what I charge for my time. I've had, I get a lot of clients from other advocates who have just taken them to the cleaners and done absolutely nothing.
Mimi says she's the only SPED teacher on her campus and she can't keep up. How can she get another teacher?
So that's a staffing issue. She has got to let, in writing, somebody know about her need.
Yes. Kelly says she's a general education teacher and she's seeing a lot of these violations. Who should she tell?
She's a teacher?
Yes. A general education teacher.
You don't tell anybody because you'll lose your job. You're going to lose your job. I mean, we've had teachers that have come and trained with us. It's the system, right? We have great school districts that, oh my gosh, they're so glad that you told them they get to work on stuff. And then we have school districts should be bonked on the head with a pool noodle. If you report that to your school district, it's not going to go well. And I only know that because about 25% of my clients are teachers. What I can tell you is that you think that schools that are bad, and not all schools are bad, schools are not special ed friendly, are not nice to parents. Be a not nice to parent school district and be an employee that comes doesn't go well.
Yeah.
Yes, I have clients everywhere. Yes, even everywhere. Virginia.
Les says, if her student is on an IEP and wants to do the sports but doesn't pass the grade to check on Monday, do we discuss it at the next IEP?
Yeah, so in the IEP, if a student is in special education, oh, thank you. I don't even know what that is, but that was hot. I need a moment now. If a student is on an IEP, all states you have to pass to play, and UIL is very important. So in the document, you want to put that we have waived the pass to play requirement for this student, whether it's band, theater, art, you're showing a cow at the rodeo, football, any of those things. You put it in the document.
We're going to do a little merch plug here, but Matt said
we are?
She loves the quote, behaviors are the fruit, not the root. Check it out.
Yes, and so our host tonight, we have a brand new shirt that says behavior is the fruit, not the root. And it is behavior. Yeah. So and it comes in 72 colors, and for you young girls or boys out there, we have crop tops. I usually wear those on the weekend, but I don't want people to stare at my shredded abs, so
if a child was denied an IEP, can you request another evaluation if it's been
Yes. Let me tell you who gets the oil. The squeaky wheel. If that means you don't like me, great. If you want the school to like you, I want you to go down to the Dollar General, buy a bar of soap, and wash your mouth out. The school liking you has nothing to do with your child being successful.
Amber says she works in the same school that her son attends, and they still lie to her face.
Yes, correct. People lie to my face, which is not going to be good for them. You have to know how to effectually, the reason we call it that we teach people to navigate and negotiate successful student outcomes. I don't call everybody out on everything, but I teach people how to do it successfully so that we get this child what they need. It's not here to go, you did this wrong, and Alicia did this, and Sarah did this. It's not about that. It's about finding the buyer in your room. There's a buyer at your IEP table who can do two things. They can release funds, and they can staff the room. You have to know who those people are, and these are the things that we teach you in Special Education Academy.
Someone asked if you can ask the school to find time during the school day to provide those compensatory services.
I would say no, and here's why. The instructional day, it is in Channelview. Somebody asked in Houston, when's your next training? It's halfway between both airports. So compensatory time is to return the student back to where they would have been had the IDA violation occurred. I don't want you to during the school day. You still have a requirement to have the school day. So I'm going to fold that in, whether it's over 1, 2, or 3 years, in times that work for me. Also, the compensatory time that I negotiate is from a private tutor who's a certified special education teacher. We're not really interested in your school teachers or your professionals that didn't deliver FAPE to now attempt to deliver FAPE. So my agreements and my settlements are very specific.
Leah said, and I feel like this is so true, team if the teachers and staff are too afraid to speak.
I'm doing everything that I can to turn that around. I'm sure the president is going to be speaker, to be the head of education. And of course, I'm going to say, I can't do that right now because I'm helping the children. I hear you. The reason I'm in special education is because somebody really nice took a piece of paper and folded it and literally slid it to me when my kid was 3, like we were doing some sort of drug deal. And I opened it up, and it was for MHMR in Travis County, mental health, mental retardation in Travis County. We don't say that anymore. It's for an agency. And here we are, 26 years later, and it's still a secret. And so me and my big mouth are here to bust that open. I'm going to every capital. I don't know where the capitals are, but you guys can tell me when I get there. I thought Epcot was the capital. I was wrong. And I'm going to go to every state capital, and we're going to give a voice to this until we have movement. And so we are raising up special education bosses to say enough is enough. We cannot be quiet any longer.
Yes. So much of that. Patterson asked, what do you do when the school designs the IEP to what the school can do and not what the child needs?
So we train on this in the academy. So you should go and print out Andrew F. ENDREW, F as in fantastic. March 22nd, 2017, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled on Andrew F. It's the requirement of special education. There are 2 questions before the committee. Did we provide them their procedural rights? And did we provide a substantive IEP? Did we write an IEP to enable this child to make progress in light of their unique circumstances? And yes, anybody can join us. So you get home and you print that out and you say, my advocate, Karen Mayer Cunningham, said that we're going to do this now. And you go like that, right? That's why I want to be by Zoom, so I can screen share, because we don't know what we don't know. You guys have probably more information than a lot of people already just learning. We have to go by Andrew F. ENDREWF. It's amazing. It'll change your life. All 8 Supreme Court justices hammered the special education that was being delivered in Douglas County in Colorado. Okay? But we have to stick the landing. Stop moving. Stop going, oh my gosh, look, Karen, they gave me a 504. They didn't give you jack. It's a federal requirement, right? That's like saying, oh, Karen, I got there and there's a ramp for my kid's wheelchair. It's a requirement. We have to step up and expect the requirements, whether it's a playground that is accessible and inclusive, a classroom that's accessible and inclusive. And we don't change our mind. We're not going to zip it up, and we're not going away.
Yes. Desiree asks, is there anything that requires a school to create a sensory room for kids?
Nope.
I like it.
We should, though, have meetings at the football stadium and open up the nacho bar. I'm just saying, we'd be in consensus more times than not. If we all had a Frito pie, I feel like the world would be a better place.
Oh, okay. I got this question. All right. It took me a minute to pick it up. Can you get an IEP for a twice exceptional child with ADHD in the state with no gifted IEPs?
You can get an IEP for a child. You can get an IEP for a child. Does a child have unique circumstances that rise to a level that solely the general ed teacher cannot provide? So children can get an IEP. And of course, I've had kids that I advocate for that are 2E. They're exceptional. They're amazing. They're fantastic. They have intellectual disabilities. They're on oxygen. They're in wheelchairs. They're valedictorians. They're everybody. If a child has needs that rise to the level above the general ed teacher, then absolutely we can consider special education and related services.
Absolutely. Somebody asked what is the location of the training in Houston?
Inside. Because if it's not inside, my hair goes crazy. It's at a top secret La Quinta, and then we have swim lessons on Saturday night.
By Janet.
Janet does the swim lessons. She's from Connecticut. She doesn't mind getting her hair wet. Me, I can't get my hair wet.
7-year-old son with a diagnosis in dyslexia and dysgraphia trying to get an IEP. Any specifics to try and add to the IEP?
Quit saying dyslexia and quit saying dysgraphia. Quit saying the disses. Stop saying that. When you say that, you give them the right to give you a screener for all of those things. While dyslexia can be special education based on the severity of it, you're giving yourself the golden handcuffs. Ask for a full evaluation to include an IQ test with all 7 G's and formal achievement that is commensurate with that IQ test. All.
Amanda asked, have you done anything with the denial of FAPE due to an unenrolled ASD child that's McKinney-Vento?
Okay, so McKinney-Vento is a very famous special education case law. So that's sort of a very long question that I would love to ask you, but that would be a lot for... Anyway, so yes, I've had lots of denials of FAPE based on sense of that you can think of for a child with disability.
Yes. When are you coming to New York? She's going to meet you in the lobby.
Call So here's how people ask all the time how I get to a state. So I don't charge for being in the state for doing the press conference. There are a few parameters to get me there. So you would reach out to Advocate, whatever how you spell that, at specialeducationacademy.com for how to get me to your state for a press conference.
I like how Alice said she's a nurse who wants to be a special education boss.
Come on, Alice, because you know what? Depending on how some of us ask, we all might need some triage.
So I think this is a valid question. If you have a child on the spectrum, but you do not feel like they need specialized academic instruction, do they still need an IEP?
So we don't say academic. It's an educational need. So your educational needs include academics, emotions, behavior, social, communication, functional, organization, all the things. We got to get off the academic train, right? Academic issues rarely are our biggest concerns for our kiddos with neurological differences. So is there an educational need? And if there is, we serve them. Oh, I like the heart. Oh, and then the arrow thing. You guys are so impressive.
Amanda asked.
Yes, and I'm coming to Illinois. Sorry. Shanny Shan. Okay. I'm not jumping ahead. I invented jumping ahead. Sorry.
Amanda asks, what happens when you don't get the FBA results back going on 60 days since I signed to allow it?
So email. What's up? Yeah. Do everything in writing. If you're not responding to your writing, just say, hey, this is my 15th email that's not been responded to. It's my 16th email. Do everything in writing. You guys are waiting too long to speak up for yourselves.
Sorry.
This is serious, Alicia.
No, but just her comment was funny. 6th grade, not this one. 6th grade at a 3rd grade reading level, school with no reading intervention. Can I get a private tutor paid for?
Yeah. So here's the thing. If the school doesn't have what your kiddo needs in special education, that is not a problem. Then we're going to convene an IEP meeting and look at a continuum of services. Continuum, right? So if you can't provide the services, that is not a problem. We will be looking at out-of-district payment, out-of-district placement at the expense of the district. All of a sudden, you'd be surprised at who shows up to teach your kid.
The comment I was laughing at was Rose.
So somebody asked me about, I'm allegedly going to Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. I hope they're close to each other during Christmas break. I didn't jump ahead. That's the 4th time, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, Texas Rose said she told her superintendent he was either going to fire her or pat her on the back for fighting for her special education kids.
Or maybe both. It's called a continuum of services. Continuum.
Salty Mouth Mom.
Oh, I like that.
Pray for me. She's got a big mouth mama has her daughter's first IEP on Thursday.
Take notes and remember that you focus on the child, not the behavior of goofy adults.
That's right. Are there any accommodations for a child with ADHD who also suffers from insomnia?
So the accommodations are not for a disability. They're for a child's unique circumstances. So you have a child that has ADHD. I don't know how that ADHD impacts them. And then you couple that with a sleep deficit. How does that child show up? What does that look like? And based on that, accommodations are in an IEP to make sure that the student makes gains on their IEP goals.
Someone said, can you please explain the purpose of an IEP with OHI? Why do they not need data?
What? An OHI is an other health impairment. You always need data. So, Down syndrome is not an OHI. Sorry, you guys. Cerebral palsy is not an OHI. An OHI is an other health impairment that's medical in nature. Is expected to impact the student for a lifetime and may be treated with medicine, and also has the ability to write a goal around it. I cannot write an IEP goal around Down syndrome. You can't write an IEP goal around cerebral palsy. So while I understand that schools let you put that on there, that's not an eligibility. An eligibility requires specially designed instruction. There's no specially designed instruction for Down syndrome.
Does a school have to abide by 504 disability of food allergies?
Yes. It's a civil right.
Yeah. Correct. Can you ask for a modification with the 504, not just accommodations?
No, that's called a special education program.
And now they all want to know what dates you're going to all those states you keep talking about.
After tomorrow. Sorry, I just let it slip out. We'll let you know by Tuesday. I think I know the dates. Sorry, I never just blurt things out. I'm a professional blurter.
Mm-hmm. Hazel wants to know, how do I get my child who has a genetic disorder and deaf into general education?
So when you say get them into general education, are you saying that your child is in like a deaf co-op and they're self-contained for interpreting services? Yes, I can come to Philadelphia. Okay, so let me just tell you where I'm coming in the States. It's always to the capital. I don't know where the capital is in Illinois, but wherever it is, I'll be there. Sorry. You should see the people on the other side of the screen. They're like this. It's hard to work with greatness. It just is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You do?
Yes.
Yesenia said our district does not have a behavior unit. How can we get this implemented in our school?
So usually adaptive behavior is going to be part of a continuum of services. It just is. So I've never seen a district that doesn't have an adaptive behavior unit. If they don't, then I would ask to go to the next district at the expense of this school district.
SK's mama said her son's IEP says he gets 1 hour of speech therapy weekly, and he hasn't received it since school started. Help!
Yeah, so you just log it and let them know that you'll need to know what the day that they actually acquire a speech language pathologist, and then based on the amount of time, Springfield, thank you. Do they have shopping in Springfield? Sorry. And then based on those minutes, like let's say just for number's sake, you missed 10 hours, then I would say compensatory time, I would multiply that times 1.5.
All right, Spicy 1913 said...
Wow, you're old, 1913. You look great.
You said don't say academic need. What was it that you said we should say instead?
Educational need, educational need, educational need, educational need.
Yes. Matt said, my son has a speech delay and struggles to regulate himself when he is not understood. What can we ask for?
So you would ask for an IEP and full testing. You want to ask for a full speech and language evaluation to include pragmatic. And you want to ask for a full psychological, emotional behavior evaluation as well in all of those areas.
Charlie said she's a non-tenured SPED teacher in California, and she advocates for her students and parents, and now her job is at risk.
I'm so sorry. We have lots of job openings. There are 7.5 million children in America that need an advocate that don't have one. I live in a little tiny city of Houston of over 7 million people, and there's me and another person here. So not running, it's an endless supply of children. Come be an advocate with us.
Kelsey said, what age do you recommend a child being a part of their own ARD meeting?
Never. I never recommend a child coming to an IEP meeting. Never. Never, 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 never. 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 An IEP meeting is rarely a place for adults. It's never a place for children. I've never seen a meaningful benefit. You're all adults having a meeting about a child who has a deficit. You receive funding for it. It turns very quickly into a situation that you can't control. Also, I've seen adults not be so nice to children right in front of me and then later. So I am their advocate. If they don't have an advocate, you're supposed to, make sure that you do that transition supplement ahead of time and interview the student. So I don't have kids in meetings. I have people in meetings that act like kids. You do not have to come in person to be an advocate. We have a digital on-demand 2-day. I've only jumped ahead 17 times. I'm so proud of myself.
Tell Mac thanks. She wanted to let you know she just bought you your shirt.
Oh, thank you.
The behavior is the root. Okay, Hazel said, you remember her son is deaf, and you remember? Okay.
Right.
Her son is classified under OHI because of his genetic disorder that's not named, and he was denied an interpreter.
Then you should call me immediately. I will get you an interpreter. Whether you're
and he doesn't go to the co-op. He goes to a regular school, she said. Sorry, I was just trying to get all of her comments.
Yeah, you need to email me.
Yeah.
And let me just say one more thing about children in a meeting. You are the parent of a minor. It is solely your decision if they come. I don't care what Betty Joe done told you ahead of time. You're a parent. They're a minor. It's your decision if they come to a meeting.
Beautiful Kate said she asked for an advocate and they denied her.
Ask for an advocate via whom?
I don't know.
I mean, if you want to connect with me, it's admin@specialeducationacademy.com. And somebody just asked, I got to address it. When do I invite children to take over? Children don't take over IEP meetings. It's just a lie, you guys. I mean, when does a child take over an IEP meeting? They're not typing the deliberations. They're not receiving federal funds. They don't take over. It's just propaganda. There's not a connection between high school and college. You are a child with a disability, then you go to the disability office in college. But children don't take over their IEP meetings. It's just not true. I wish it was. I would invite children to all of my IEP meetings.
Someone asked, should the IEP be based on a student's disability when they're not medicated?
It should be based on their unique needs, whether they're medicated or not.
Correct. You kind of answered her question, but Greta said she's an educational therapist and would love to become an advocate. How does she connect with you?
admin@specialeducationacademy.com. So let me just answer something real quick. Somebody said something about 18 to 21, they kick out the parents. If your child is 18 to 21 and that program, they obviously have a cognitive or an intellectual disability, and you would have guardianship of them. So that's the only way they would even qualify for those services.
Hazel said it's a very long story and she is going to email you.
Yes. And yes, you can hire me to review documents. I'll receive your documents, we'll Zoom, and I'll tell you my recommendations, my considerations, and next steps.
What do you do when the school uses staffing as the reason not to provide educational time?
It sounds like a very boring story to me. Nobody cares. You only have rights if you invoke them, which is why I filed so many federal complaints. Staffing has been an issue since 1975. So, doesn't recuse you of your obligation to deliver a FAPE. COVID did not recuse anybody of their guardianship, of their responsibilities to deliver FAPE.
Nat asks, who determines the schedule of services for speech, OT, gen ed, and how do you ask for increased time?
So, the IEP team determines that. The 5 stakeholders are the parent, the LEA representative, which is usually a principal, a general ed teacher, a special education teacher, an evaluator that can interpret and answer questions about those evaluations. And we make all decisions based on the data. All the data has to sit inside of the present levels. Your present levels should be puffy, pristine, and prescriptive. Most of your present levels are pitiful.
Brittany said, how about 3.5 years in speech and no goals have been met?
I'm going to need you to get it's a problem. It's a no for me. I would file on that.
Do we participate in the STEMI school Medicaid reimbursement for IEP services? And if not, will they agree? What? Hold on.
So parents don't get reimbursement via Medicaid in special education. Just FYI.
I don't know what the second half of that comment is.
Okay.
When guardianship is expensive.
Guardianship is expensive because you're going before the court. So I'm also a certified mediator in the family courts. It is expensive, but it's also expensive for somebody to go and your child is signed up for a $40,000 car, signed up for a $50,000 lease, or is in jail because he did something that looked illegal, but they have a disability. So you can get reduced guardianship services, usually through your county, but guardianship is something that you definitely want to look into if you think that somebody could take advantage of your child intellectually, emotionally, or financially, or physically.
Someone asks, can I request the school only test the child when they're unmedicated? She's worried that medicine will impact the results.
So I don't, if a child is medicated, I don't have them unmedicated to take the test. I'm not a fan of skewing the data. If the medication is working, then the medication is working. And I just want to say, I agree that these things are expensive. I don't disagree with you.
Yes. Sassy Kim said the lack of resources was the reason her son finally got an out-of-district placement, and it has changed his life.
Oh, that's so good. And no, I do not take insurance. Somebody asked if I take insurance.
Oh, Lone Wolf said they partially heard you talk about the sports grade check in the IEP. Where does the exception get added into the IEP?
Yes, Lone Wolf. So we would put in the document that the student, we agree as a committee that the no pass, no play requirement, that this student is exempt for that as long as they make progress on their IEP goals, right? So let's say they get a failing grade in band. We would say as a committee, he can still participate in band as long as he's making progress on his IEP goals. I like that, Lone Wolf. That's impressive.
Anna? Harriet said, what if the speech goal has been met and maybe they haven't changed the goal?
Then you make a more appropriate goal based upon their unique needs. You do not have to come in person to be an advocate.
No. Can an IEP help a student in college?
You don't have an IEP in college. You can have accommodations. So you go to the disability office and you say, hey, I'm amazing. I need these accommodations. You don't have to have an IEP. You don't have to have a 504 to get accommodations in college.
Someone said, what do you mean file on that?
That means the infraction is severe. I would file on it.
And Brittany, she was the one that asked about the 3.5 years no speech, or the speech goal hasn't been met. She's asking to file what? Because they're now doing outside speech because they're not actually helping in school.
I mean, so that's something I could discuss with you outside of this international global recording. But yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna just. Somebody asked about the UIL. Doesn't that violate UIL? That's why it's an exception, right? So a child on an IEP, if we agree as a committee, that they are exempt from the no pass, no play. Yes, I've never seen any of those kids like take your kid's starting football spot. So, but yes.
Yeah. Someone said, what is the statute of limitations for district's ADA violation?
None. Ain't no limitations. Nobody's been thrown in the Gulf of Mexico. Well, I have never thrown anybody in the Gulf of Mexico. I've thought about it, though. Except for it's near water.
Oh, here it goes. Hold on. It's a 2-part question. Ready?
Oh, no.
We recently moved to a new school district, and the schools say that since they don't do test retakes, they can't keep.
What?
I read it the best I could. We recently moved to a new district. Can a school say they don't do test retakes? They can't keep him on the 504.
I'm going to assume that her only accommodation...
I got it. No. Okay. So he has test retakes as an accommodation?
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, okay. I did.
Well, of course you have it. It's an accommodation. You don't have to have it. If the accommodation says that he wears green polka dot socks on Thursdays halfway shoved down his leg, and we agreed upon it, then we do it. We don't have it. It's not a thing. You guys say it with me. That's not a thing. It's a nice way of saying you're lying. Or this is what I say. You and I both know that's not true. And if that's true, please provide me those shenanigans in writing by close of business.
I have a school psychologist that wants to evaluate every kid. What's your opinion on how to approach that?
That sounds fantastic. I think probably every kid needs to be evaluated. I know I do. Somebody said that their kid, I gotta jump in. Somebody's kid, the school lost their Baja hearing aid and they refused to replace it. That happens and they don't have a responsibility to replace it. And I know they're crazy expensive. I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, shenanigans is one of my favorite words.
Shenanigans. 3 professionals say that something would benefit the child, but the school system can't meet the need in the IEP.
So you could have the surgeon general say that your child has a need. There has to be an agreed upon educational need at the school-based members. Oh, look, it's shenanigans. I love that. That's their name. The school should be
Jude
sending...
said hi.
Who did?
Jude.
Hi, Jude. Tell Jude I said Skittles. And happy birthday.
What advice can you give Paris?
First of all, let me kiss you hard on the mouth and say thank you for all the Paris that lovingly serve our kiddos. My advice is you're better than you think you are. Keep serving those kiddos. Work to become a special education teacher, or come with us and we'll train you to be a special education advocate.
Amen. Plans for Life asked, how long after requesting an IEP review does the school have to respond?
Quickly? Like now? Yeah.
I know.
Or as we would say on the TikTok, it's about dang time. I mean, I wouldn't say that because I mess up songs.
Kimberly asked what you did before you became an advocate.
I was a swimwear model. I had a salon where I just visited about people all day and got lots of Christmas gifts, and everyone loved me. And I thought, let's do something where people like turn their card around in the grocery store when they see you. Yeah.
This is the question of the week. How do I get a copy of testing results before the ARD for my review?
So I don't go into a meeting without being fully prepared. So please provide me all drafts prior to the meeting so I may be fully prepared to participate. Without those drafts ahead of time, it's unlikely I'll be able to participate and we'll have to reschedule. There's no law that says they have to give you a draft of anything. But if they're going to be banana heads and rear ends, I want to have that documented.
Desiree says it's 1-to-1 only for extreme aggression, not a thing because that's what they tell me.
So one-on-one is based on the student's unique needs. I have kiddos that have needed a one-on-one because of their fall risk. I've had kiddos that need one-on-ones for behaviors. I've had kiddos that need one-on-one for nursing. I'm not saying that there aren't times that that's needed, but just I want my kid to have a one-on-one. It really is not going to serve them well, in my opinion, long-term.
Someone asked, can a child be put out of school if he's being evaluated for an IEP? He is currently in a pre-K private setting.
Can he be put out of school? If he doesn't meet eligibility for special education and he's not of school age, he's not entitled to services.
I think she's saying the private school is trying to kick him out.
Yes, private schools can kick you out. Days cares can kick you out. Your church can kick you out. Restaurants can kick you out.
My favorites call me Auntie asked, can you explain the 3 of 1 of the speech model? That's what they say my child is receiving. 3 off 1 on the speech model. I don't know what that is.
I would need more information on that.
Yeah. I'm in Oklahoma and the school is overwhelming for her, but they just want her in class no matter what.
So you probably need representation. Unfortunately, parents, it's admin at Special Education Academy. Admin at Special Education Academy. I'm sure one of our friends will put it in there. You're going into a legal meeting that you're outmanned, you're outnumbered, and you have to realize the questions that you ask, other parents have asked, and so schools are under a lot of pressure sometimes from their principals, who are under a lot of pressure from, coordinators, who are under a lot of pressure from, I get it, right? But you have to be able to know what the requirements are. Where do we find out about laws? That's what we teach on every single Tuesday. There's hundreds of hours archived in the Academy, Special Education Academy.
Yes. What does a district do if they cannot find an interpreter for an uncommon language?
Well, they'll need to find one via Zoom.
I like it. This guy is super smart.
It's admin at specialeducationacademy.com. Admin at specialeducationacademy.com.
His name is Cy Guy. He's a neuroscience PhD student, a former nurse practitioner, and would like to become an advocate. How does he do that?
Come on! You can either join us in person, which is a lot of fun, or you can take the class online. We have a 2-day intensive We have more intense programs after that if you're interested in becoming an affiliate with us.
Ronnie said, if the art committee is supposed to decide placement, why does the SPED admin get to decide it?
They don't. They do if you don't know your rights. You have to, so it's two things. You have to know your rights and how to invoke them, right? And so parents have limited information and it sounds good, but they don't really have follow-up things to support that.
Correct. Okay, so these two questions kind of go hand in hand, so I'm going to combine them. It's from Candace and Anne. What if the para-specific spends her day on her phone rather than supporting the student? And Missy Ann said, what if the one-to-one para, what if there's a one-to-one in the IEP, but there's not one in place due to staff shortage?
So the second question, that's compensatory time. The first question, do you know that about the para because you work there? Or do you know that because you're about the para because you're a parent? If you work there, it's probably going to impact your ability to work there if you report it. That's just the truth.
Can a school deny help for an IEP online student because of funding?
There's no requirement for online help. Online is not codified. Online is not a thing. It's just not. It's not, online is not a continuum of services. I cannot give you special education and related services if I am not in the room.
Another one-to-one para question. Would you request a one-to-one for a child who wanders and has been lost on 3 different occasions since the start of school?
No. I'd probably ask for out-of-district placement, though, which would help them get staffing.
Okay. Harriet says, the school says the IEP has been met and there are no educational needs, but she disagrees. The student has apraxia of speech.
So then you're going to need updated testing to support your beliefs.
Correct. Kylie asks, how long should it take to get homebound started after providing the doctor's note?
Well, it depends, right? You have to have a homebound meeting, and then a homebound teacher has to be assigned to you.
Oh.
A couple weeks.
Yeah. The 3-to-1 speech thing, 3 off 1, is 3 weeks of direct services and 1 week of indirect services.
That's a lie. So these are models. It doesn't talk about any of this in IDEA. So when people sit in meetings and we do this and we do that, I'm like, it's no. Right. The student needs the services. We have this limited amount of time to get the child services between 3 and 22. If you agree to an imaginary model, then you agree to that. I don't agree to a reduction in a benefit for a child with a disability.
Tiki Taki said, the school says they won't train teachers to give an EpiPen. It's been on the 504 for 10 years now.
So what you need is an IHP, an individualized health plan, and then that becomes a requirement of the staff and the nurse.
Galloway girl says, an ID child in regular ed academically at a kindergarten level, what accommodations would you ask for?
So I don't know what grade they're in. If a child has an intellectual disability, then we're going to look at if she needs alternative curriculum, which would be in a different setting, resource, or general ed.
How come cognitive processes are not being addressed at our schools?
Because they're not testing for them, and then we don't test for them and then talk about them in the present levels.
Where do I get more testing for her apraxia speech child?
You should be able to get full speech and language evaluation, which include pragmatics from the school district.
Someone asked, what is out-of-district placement? Can this be private school the district pays for?
It can be an out-of-district placement that the school district agrees to pay for. Sometimes that includes private. There's usually a list from your state of approved out-of-district placements.
What are your suggestions for a child with CAP, IEP goals due to speech and hearing issues?
So CAP is an acronym that means different things in different places. So I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Sugar P, can you specify? If a student is placed in a unit, would it be ideal to have the teacher of that unit present at the ARD?
I'm going to address this one. So 3 to 1 is not a lie. It allows for us to observe. Right. Your observation times have nothing to do with the needs of a student. It's a model that's been made in school districts because they're short-staffed. So if a child needs speech, they need speech. There's nothing about a disability that says I need a week off from services. So I stand by that. Tourette's is an OHI all day long. Sorry. And then one more thing. Somebody asked about compensatory time. So compensatory time is delivered to the student. I have it delivered by a private tutor who's a certified special education teacher at a time that works for the private tutor and the family.
Can you get a reading intervention and also be serviced for reading on an IEP?
Yeah, you can have both.
Fourth grader at a second grade educational level, IEP with OHI and speech, child does not qualify for ESY.
What is the question?
I don't know, but Candace says she knows about the pair because she works with her.
Oh, yeah, that's tough. I would report it to your leadership if you can. OHI is other health impairment. It's one of the 13 federal eligibilities.
Yeah. How can I push back on putting my high-functioning Down syndrome third grade child from being put in a functional academic class?
The data has to support the appropriate place to teach him. So what does the data say? Look at the data in totality and bring your own data.
Shani Shan said, is it legal to place a child at alternative education for behaviors without an evaluating for an IEP?
Yes.
Teacher farm fire chick, and she just does it all.
That does it all.
Why is Texas trying to get rid of resource? I'm oversped in my school, high school with functional.
So Texas, you don't get rid of the continuum of services, but if parents believe that, then they don't get it, right? So I have a kiddo in 7th grade in a monster junior high, probably almost 2,000 kids. He's the only 7th grade getting a resource math. Okay. So we've told parents we're getting rid of it, and parents believe them. So we are here to disrupt lies from districts and admin that are used to cover their behinds and their budgets.
The price of teaching is a co-teaching model that doesn't have me directly working with my sped students. Okay, it feels off.
No, it's not legal.
Why would the school not want to accept medical diagnosis for autism on their IEP?
Well, it's not about accepting a medical diagnosis. You have to have an educational need, right? So there's lots of people that have a medical diagnosis. There's three areas, right? Medical, therapeutic, and educational. Just because you have a medical diagnosis, it doesn't rise to the level of needing specially designed instruction. Sometimes it does. Cover their behinds and their budgets. Let's make that a shirt with a behind and a bundle of, no, probably you guys make the graphic, we'll put it on a shirt. Yes, I am not that smart. I've just been doing this for a long time, 26 years. If you want to reach out to hiring me or to having me to come and do your training, just reach out to admin@specialeducationacademy.com. I'm not that smart. I just read a lot. And I love people. Yeah. Your budget and your behinds. Mm-hmm.
Oh, geez. I lost the question. I have kids I co-teach in general ed with SLDs and have an IQ under 70, but are too socially advanced for, I guess, isolation. So
their adaptive behavior is high. So, yes, I can be hired. I had a case from a judge for a young man that was being sentenced to a very long time in prison. He had a 61 IQ, but he was the head of the marching band and drums, and he was the quarterback, and they went to state. So adaptive behavior is a requirement for intellectual disability. Oh, you're amazing too. Thank y'all.
Someone said we no longer need speech, so they're saying we're going to lose all of our other services, including OT and adaptive PE.
Well, that's goofy. So just make sure that you're retesting and you're looking at all areas of disability. Not the ones that you know about, but all areas. And that, how to get tested in all areas is the free class that you get. It's on the modules when you sign up for the Academy. It's the best $47 that you'll ever spend. Stay as long as you want, leave when you want. It's not like the Hotel California. You can check out whenever you want. We don't want you to, but you can.
Becky asked, do Indiana schools have to keep files at the school on each child with a 504 and IEP?
They have to have the files accessible. Yeah. Indiana. God bless Indiana.
Patterson asks, how can a child qualify for ESY if the IEP goals are being met, but behind in grade level education?
So ESY is two-pronged. Number one, how you, I do not come in Austin. I do not come in person. I grew up in Austin though, and we don't need to come in person. I don't come in person to do a due process hearing against a team of attorneys. I don't come in person to do custody, but it'll feel like I'm in person. So tell me the question again. Oh, ESY. ESY has two prongs. Two prongs. The first prong is documented regression on IEP goals. Is the school going to have documented regression on IEP goals? No. The second prong is hard to disprove. That is concern for loss of critical skills. Second prong, concern for loss of critical skills. And so, we are concerned that if we do not have this ESY, these skills, this acquisition of information is going to diminish at a rate we can't recover.
CAP is central auditory processing disorder.
So auditory processing disorder is not a federal eligibility. It's not. It is not a federal eligibility. The school is required to provide services and supports around federal eligibilities. Hey, Melissa, TVI.
Crazy Lex Luthor said.
That is not true. Crazy Lex Luthor. I feel like we should train them.
Yep. Crazy. What if a teacher is not helping the student with the IEP until the last 10 minutes of school? What do I do?
Well, first you're going to ask for the RDCS, the raw data collection sheets. I would start there. So back to ESY, concern for loss of critical skills. Concern for loss of critical skills. You should see the looks that I'm getting from people on the other side. You're lucky that I'm turning it.
Can I push my school to get another special education teacher?
Like a different teacher? Like you don't like the teacher?
No,
you can, but you'd probably end up on Dateline, and we don't want that. So we can't do anything about staffing. If the staff is not providing the IEP, then we certainly go up the chain to make sure that happens. RDCS, raw data collection sheets. I want the raw data collection sheets at the end of every grading period.
So this commenter, his name is You Are So Loved. They left this comment twice. I was waiting to see if there was a question at the other end, but then they commented the same thing again, so I'm just going to read it to you. My daughter received a skull transplant earlier this year. It causes her to be hyper because she has pressure on her brain. There's not like a question. I'm waiting to see. I just want them to know. I see their comment. If they have a question, let me know.
Right.
Can our school SPED lead 4 SPED teachers to rewrite annual IEP before the annual due date?
Can your school do that? Schools do a lot of things. They didn't ask me, right? I don't know what schools can and can't do. I know that they can't violate the agreed upon IEP. How they get to the meeting, I don't know.
Oh, the You Are So Love said she tried to get her an IEP.
Okay, so
they said that she doesn't need one because she's getting into trouble every day because she can't sit still.
Okay, so I'd have all that in writing, all that in writing, all that in writing. Is there a SPED form used for RDCS? Yes. Dear school, I will be picking up the raw data collection sheets at the end of the grading period. Should I bring you an 8-track tape player, a cassette, or a zip drive? The raw data collection sheets are the data that the implementers took on the agreed upon IEP goals?
No, she's 4. You are so loved. She's 4.
Oh.
I know. This one says, current sped teacher, do you have part-time positions available in the afternoons to work from home? She's asking if you're hiring.
Oh, you can work whenever you want. You can work in the bathtub. You can work in on Thursdays, Fridays. Special education is 24 hours a day, 366 days a year. So we have advocates that train with us that just do straight consults. They get in a packet from somebody, they review them and do a Zoom. So if you want, as an advocate, you control your own schedule, which is fantastic. So if there's a sale at Talbot's and you have to go, then you don't take any meetings that time, but you run your own schedule. We want you to be an advocate.
So there's a couple people asking, so can you explain your record review versus representation?
Sure. So I get an opening packet from somebody. I'm going to take it out of the mailer that it came in. I'm going to review these records. In my opening documents, I will send you a list of what I'm looking for. It's a summary of about the last 3 years, and there's a reason that I have them. I'll review them. Within a day or two, I'll set up a Zoom with the parents, and I'll walk them through and go, well, here's problem 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Here are my recommendations, and either the parent will move forward and articulate the recommendations that I've given them. They'll say it was nice to meet you, or they'll say we would like you to actually represent us in the meeting. And either one of those things are fine.
Perfect. Thanks for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you talking to me?
Just pretending to talk to
There's a few things. So raw data collection sheets, is that the same as progress monitoring?
No, let's talk about that. So the little printout that you get, I'll show you really quick. So these are IEP progress reports, right? Nobody saw them, right? This is a page that says, in 36 instructional weeks, she will have 3 exchanges of verbal communications, repair communication, eye contact, blah, 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 blah. So it says the date of the progress report, progress code, is this progress sufficient, general comments. That's not a raw data collection sheet. This is an IEP progress report, right? A progress from monitoring. This is something that we've populated into some software. The raw data collection sheets, yes, if you train to be an advocate, we train you to be an advocate in the United States, okay? The raw data collection sheets are what she's been writing down when she was working on her goals, right? She didn't type into Success Ed or eStar or eSped or any of this. She wasn't typing into the top software. The Brailleist, the O&M person was writing on another piece of paper. Those are raw data collection sheets that then populate the progress reports. That's what I want. And I will tell them that at the meeting. Why? Because A, I want to be doing the same thing that you're doing. And we want to be working on the same thing to mitigate the impact of their disability.
Perfect. There are a lot of teachers on here.
Oh, that's good. Raw is mostly handwritten. Can we get not O for you? I like that. Can we get a shirt that says raw? Like my whole desk is just a sea of raw data collection sheets, right? I love when I get a raw data collection sheet and the handwriting looks exactly the same for a year. Really, ma'am? You sat down in Chili's while you were waiting for your hamburger and filled that out. A lot of things I am, stupid, not one of them.
You have a lot of teachers on here asking if they can go to your trainings.
Well, yeah. Most people that come to my trainings are teachers. Because you know what? Sometimes, kiddos, it's easier to help from the outside in. Somebody asked me how much money advocates make. More money than we know what to do with. Yeah. Come work with us. We love you. We love teachers.
Someone asked if you have a training to become an advocate anywhere else besides Texas.
Yes, on the internet. So when you're in the bathtub, you push play.
Right. Student who needs more than interventions but less than pull out from a room. How do I help?
If you want to reach me, you reach me at admin@specialeducationacademy.com. If you need something different than the student's getting, we come back to an IEP meeting and we say, hey, I think Billy's struggling during welding. Let's get him a welding assistant, right? We just go back to the table, right? It's one table for one kiddo.
Someone asked, what if the school won't help a child with an IEP and says homeschool is a better option?
I would say that I smell that candle, pants on fire. And you're a bozo. Yeah. Homeschool is not an educational option. Homeschool is not it's not part of the continuum of services. I believe in homeschooling, just not my home, not my children.
Jam Winter says that her raw data collection sheets look like chicken scratch.
That's why we know they're actually we love some. Like I wrote this the other day. Do you guys know what this is? Can y'all read that? Can anybody read that? That's right. It says, is it backwards? Is it backwards for y'all? It's FMNV. FMNV. You guys know? Oh, that's good. FMLA. I wish it was FMLA. God likes some FMLA. It's foods of minimal nutritional value. It's an accommodation. Yes, Jam Winters. I would like some FMLA. I'm getting some FMLA next week. I will be with Mickey Mouse. If you want to contact me, just reach out to admin at specialeducationacademy.com. I am available for, I have somebody asked about Canada. I advocate for students all over the globe. Yeah. Is Skittles an accommodation? It is for Jude.
That's right.
That's funny. Yes, I have a client in Papua New Guinea. I don't know if there's a lot of fathers there and guinea pigs. I don't even know what that is. But yeah, I've got clients all over the globe.
I like how Justine said, I live off of my raw data collection sticky notes.
I am a sea of sticky notes. Sometimes when I'm going someplace, I'll put my sticky notes in a sandwich bag, and then I bring them home.
Oh, Teacher Farm Fire Chick said.
Stop. You're making that up.
I'm not.
We need to connect him with the Lex person.
Yeah.
No, I'm not an attorney. Attorneys pay attention and finish college. I'm in a much better mood than attorneys.
She said, concern for loss of critical skills, documented regression for IEP goals required for comp services too.
No, compensatory time is built on the egregious behavior of a school district. So I have some insane compensatory... South America. I have some insane compensatory packages that I've negotiated because I said so. So.
Well, there you go.
Because I said so.
That's right. How do I deal with bullying for an autistic child who is on honor roll but is in general education?
I mean, that's bullying is an administration issue.
The training in Texas is in?
It's in Channel View. It's on the Beltway. It's halfway between both airports. Yes, I train advocates. I'm an advocate trainer. I'm an advocate aficionado el treno.
Rhonda asks, does a child have to be behind academically to qualify for OHI? My child has type 1 diabetes.
Nope. I have kiddos that are diabetic on an IEP all day long. They have to have an educational need.
It's the Skittles accommodation.
We should all have an accommodation with Skittles.
Yes. Should the teacher be invited to the art
Hold
meeting?
on. You don't have to have... I'm a college dropout, so you don't have to have a college degree. You don't have to have a degree, a certification, a bonification, stamped, seared, secured, anything. To be an advocate, you have to represent families.
I'm a little concerned about this person. Can the school deny meals to their SPED students?
No, you can't deny meals to any child. Yeah. Yes, Australia is in Papua New Guinea. Thank you. I didn't know where Australia was. Yes, the training is available online. We have the 2-day online, on demand. Right now, you can just get on and demand it. See how I did that? Ba-dum-bum. Sorry, it's late.
Jackie asks, should a teacher be invited to an art meeting when the student is being placed in their unit?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can answer questions to the parents. Mm-hmm.
Yes. I think I'm caught up now.
Okay, we're going to take 3 more questions, and then I've got to jump off because, I have to do all my ironing. I don't iron. Yes, my email is admin@specialeducationacademy.com. Oh, you're awesome, too.
Yeah, there was a lot of questions about how to get a hold of you, how to find your training, so maybe just give that spiel while we wait for a couple more questions to come through.
Thank you, Jam Winters. Do you get much work over the summer? I get work every day of my life, 24 hours a day. I love you too, Bonnie. I got 3 opening packets today. today when I was at the Costco trying to get some decorations. Yeah, every day. Love you guys. Go ahead.
Faith says she's a SPED teacher and she's burning out. What can she do?
You could become an advocate. There's 605,000 children in Texas with an IEP. I'm just one person. And so we have to have advocates. Oh, thank you, Jam Winners. How do advocates get paid? They get paid by their clients. Advocates range from about $50 an hour to about $400 an hour. Where are there advocates places in Indiana who can help? So I'd reach out to COPA, Coalition of Parent and Attorneys and Advocates. They might have some in Indiana. I have an advocate that I can refer you to in Indiana if you want to email me.
You ready for your last question?
Yes. Hi, South Carolina.
Courtney would like to know, does a district have to pay for a child need for a mental hospital?
So if a student has a psychiatric break and need their educational setting to be in a supported setting that includes psychiatric care, then that can be negotiated, yes.
All right.
Okay. So we're going to see you guys. We'll be doing this every Tuesday night for an hour, just 1 hour. So the Academy is at 8 p.m. on Tuesdays. We're going to do a live on TikTok, Ask the Advocate, from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. So tell all of your friends and your non-friends, and we will see you Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central on here. Remember, when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. Thank you all for what you do, and we'll see you guys in the next training.